Most people think quitting sugar for 30 days is about weight loss, but that's actually one of the least interesting things that happens. The real changes are quieter, deeper, and mostly invisible, and that's why they're rarely talked about. When you stop eating added sugar, the first thing that changes isn't your body fat, it's your blood chemistry. Sugar spikes insulin fast, but what's rarely mentioned is that frequent insulin spikes train your body to ignore insulin over time, even in people who look healthy. Within days of removing added sugar, insulin stops being released so aggressively. This gives your cells a chance to respond properly again. It's not dramatic, but it's foundational. Another unpopular fact: sugar doesn't just affect energy, it affects how your body stores minerals. High sugar intake increases the loss of magnesium through urine. Magnesium is involved in sleep quality, muscle relaxation, and nervous system regulation. When sugar is removed, magnesium levels slowly stabilize, which is one reason sleep improves weeks later, not immediately. In the first week, fatigue often appears, and many assume something is wrong. What's actually happening is that sugar suppresses your body's ability to efficiently switch fuel sources. When sugar is gone, your metabolism is relearning flexibility. That temporary tiredness isn't weakness, it's metabolic recalibration. This adaptation phase is almost never explained, which is why people quit too early. As days pass, inflammation quietly drops. Sugar increases inflammatory markers even in people without diagnosed conditions. What's unpopular is this: low-grade inflammation doesn't hurt, it just drains you. When sugar is removed, joints may feel lighter, digestion calmer, and mental fog slowly lifts. Not because inflammation disappears, but because your immune system isn't constantly reacting. By the second week, gut bacteria begin to change. Sugar selectively feeds bacteria that thrive on quick fermentation. When sugar intake drops, those populations shrink and other bacteria expand. This shift affects more than digestion. It influences mood. About 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. Changes here can subtly improve emotional regulation, which is why mood feels steadier without a clear reason. Another rarely mentioned effect is on hunger hormones. Sugar interferes with leptin, the hormone that tells you you're full. When sugar is constant, leptin signals get ignored. After a few weeks without added sugar, leptin sensitivity improves, meaning your body tells you to stop eating earlier. And you actually listen. This isn't willpower, it's chemistry. By the third week, taste receptors begin resetting. This isn't psychological. Repeated sugar exposure reduces sensitivity to sweetness. When sugar is removed, receptors regenerate. That's why fruit starts tasting sweeter and processed foods start tasting overwhelming. Your nervous system isn't being dramatic, it's recalibrating sensory input. One of the least talked about changes happens in the liver. Excess sugar, especially fructose, is processed almost entirely by the liver. Over time, this creates fat accumulation even in lean bodies. After weeks without added sugar, the liver reduces fat production and improves insulin signaling. This doesn't show on a scale, but it changes long-term metabolic risk. By the final stretch of 30 days, stress response improves. Sugar amplifies cortisol release during stress. Without it, cortisol spikes are lower and shorter. This is why people feel calmer under pressure. Not because life is easier, but because their nervous system isn't constantly overstimulated. The most uncomfortable truth is this: sugar doesn't just create cravings, it creates noise, constant signals. Hunger that isn't hunger, fatigue that isn't exhaustion, mood shifts that feel personal but aren't. Removing sugar doesn't give you superpowers, it gives your body silence, and silence is where regulation returns. 30 days without sugar isn't a detox, it's a diagnostic. It shows you how your body behaves when it's not constantly interrupted. And once you experience that baseline, it becomes very hard to ignore what sugar was quietly taking from you.